Isaiah, Kai, my students who I said I would inflate their grade if they showed up to help today. All those folks, if you want to give them a round of applause, that would be awesome. Thank you too. So my name is Dr. Matt Olson. I'm the director of the TLI Leadership Institute, and I have absolutely the best job in the world because I get to work with some of the most amazing people, most amazing students, and amazing leaders here on campus in the community. We're here today to recognize those leaders, celebrate our students, and really have the focal point of what makes our program special, unique, and all those great things. If you notice during COVID, we emerging from COVID, you look at all the data nationwide when it comes to programs in higher ed. Most of them had major drops in enrollment, major changes in how they did things. Thanks to my amazing team and our wonderful students, we saw nearly a 2,000% increase in our enrollments, 4 times as many events as we had in the past prior to COVID. And we saw some amazing changes in our students as they went through our program. So we're absolutely thrilled. And it doesn't happen by chance or luck. It happens because of partners like folks from the Ritz-Carlton, folks from Ronald McDonald House, folks from every walk of life here in Jacksonville help to make our program what it is. So we're so incredibly grateful, especially during this holiday weekend. We consider ourselves truly blessed to be here and be with all of you today. Especially Bruce and June Taylor. Give them a round of applause because we don't have any We have some amazing guest speakers and featured speakers today, including a mentor extraordinaire and one of our graduates of our program who's now doing great things on a national scale. We have our students coming back to talk about what it means to be a leader, and then we're going to kick it off with some major bling for some amazing people. So let's get started because I know our women's tennis team, they have to go for senior day. And who y'all competing against today? Okay, so you're gonna text me after you beat them, right? All right, that's our habit, okay? I have the honor and privilege of working with some amazing people, amazing athletes, and amazing teams. So when you think about one team in particular, each year we recognize one group of athletes that really go above and beyond, not only as leaders on the court, on the playing field, but here on campus and in the community. So let's brag about the women's tennis team, and I know Coach is probably going to try to hide under a seat as I start going on this. So the women's tennis team here at UNF, best in program history, ASUN championship, beating up and really, not just winning, but beating up on some Power 5 teams, and really going above and beyond every expectation. But it's really amazing to see what they've done, not only as a team in terms of their performance, but as a team in terms of how they've come together as almost family. They've gone through our leadership program and listened to me talk about positivity and confidence and all those things, and it's amazing to see what they've done, not only as athletes, but as students here and the ambassadors of UNF here on campus and throughout Jacksonville. The perfect example of that is their work in the community, serving as mentors and guests at the Ronald McDonald House, going and painting, even during COVID, painting via Zoom. And they're fantastic tennis players, not the best artists, and they still put themselves out there in helping out those families and children going through some very challenging times at the Ronald McDonald House. Okay, and also serving as mentors to students from Camp Osprey coming to campus, and some of those students had never even picked up a tennis racket, and they were going through some lessons with them and really changing those students' perspective of who they are and what they wanted to be. So it is with absolute pleasure that I award this year's Team Leadership Award to the UNF Women's Tennis Team. Captain Rick Hoffman, when he's not traveling the world scaling glaciers in Antarctica or serving as the complete mindset for the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world, Rick has been a true advocate for our program, mentoring students, helping students looking for a career in the military get into officer candidate school, helping students who are going through some challenging times during Zoom. The Zoom era at UNF where students weren't allowed to be on campus. And when I say tireless advocate for leadership in all forms, Rick truly epitomizes that and has been such a great brand ambassador for the Leadership Institute and for UNF as a whole. So it's with absolute pleasure, the Military Leadership Award to Captain Rick Hoffman.
I'll now make a few remarks.
Rick is the reason why we put all the acceptance speeches on paper, because we have to be out of here by 2. But also, I know Rick doesn't like bragging about himself too much, but if you all rent this weekend, go and stream the movie Battleship, you might notice a similar, you might recognize a few faces there in that movie, and Rick was a big part of that. So not only is he making an impact here, but out in Hollywood as well. I'm waiting to get a part, Rick. I'm just, one day. So to say that Brody Waters has been representing UNF on a not only local scale, but a global scale would be an understatement. Probably one of the most humble guys I've ever met, but when you think about, look at his career, check out his LinkedIn profile, it has like 700 pages of all the things he's accomplished, including helping to bring the #1 draft pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars here to town, working with professional sports leagues on a global basis, working with the NFL, helping them with diversity issues and major initiatives on really just a groundbreaking scale. But I had the opportunity to not only know Brody as an alumnus here, former athlete here on the basketball team, but what stands out for Brody is probably one of the most amazing fathers I've ever seen. His son plays with my son on a youth basketball team. And Brody is traveling from one area of the state, breaking all these speeding rules, just to get to coach's daughter's team. And this is really powerful to see not only a great man doing great things in his career field, but keeping the priorities of what is most important. So one of the most amazing fathers and a great inspiration to me, and the Alumni Impact Award, Brody Waters. Sarah Walsh, former UNF student extraordinaire, student athlete, you name it. She has been doing amazing things, once again, on a global scale. We love bragging about our Ospreys, just doing fantastic things in the community. Working at ESPN, Fox Sports, now with the NFL Network. And many of you, especially our basketball family back there, Mrs. Driscoll, will remember Sarah's famous interview when our team was making the NCAA tournament on the Lazy River Ride, interviewing Bo Beach. And it was great to see that interview really, go viral and really change what many people saw of our university. And I got a lot of calls from my family and friends back home in Boston. We're like, can we go to that school? You have a Lazy River Ride at your school? So that made national news, and Sarah continues to do great things on a truly global scale. So our Leading Ladies Alumni Award, Sarah Walsh. Humble beginnings. And not only, he often shares a story about how he was rejected a few times before getting into UNF. And we had a lot of conversations, and he worked tirelessly to get accepted. But I don't think many of you know the fact that Darryl Boyer's first class with me, he skipped it and was working in the dean's office that day. I went up to check my mailbox, and Darryl was working at the front desk, and I said, "Hey Darryl, how you doing? You just missed my first class, your very first class at UNF." So what started out with a challenging start, okay, Darryl went on, he's like, "Dr. Rose, I'm so sorry, how can I ever repay you?" I said, "Just go do great things." So Darryl took that as a huge challenge. Within 2 years of humble beginnings, skipping my first class, student body vice president, making national news for something really good. Okay? Recently, now working out of the State House in Tallahassee, getting his graduate degree, his master's degree, okay, from that school in Tallahassee, the Garnet and Gold, that I don't know, as a former Gator, I'm not allowed to mention that place. Being groomed to be one of the most powerful leaders here in the state of Florida. And talk about positioning ourselves for great things. Darryl has promised me that I will be his driver or his security detail when he's governor one day. So the one thing that Darryl truly brings to this world and the people that he connects with is he makes every person feel significant when he's working with them. And from humble beginnings, great things are happening for Darryl Boyer. So we have our Rising Alumni Award, Darryl Boyer. With our increased enrollments, we now work with about 900 students every year going through our program. And it's a great testament to our instructors, everyone from Sid Steele to Dave Reed, and Dr. Challey, which is probably hiding somewhere. In terms of what we see in our students, there's always one or two students in every class that truly stands out. Olivia Ramirez was one of those students in terms of the poise, determination, hard work, the work ethic, you name it, above and beyond at every step of the way in terms of what we had our students do. With our visits to the Ritz-Carlton, just the poise and the presence in such a fantastic place to really stand out. Olivia shines. Working with the PGA Tour recently, I've heard nothing but just amazing things from the work she's been doing, and I know she has great things ahead. Student Leadership Award, Olivia Ramirez. But recently we had the opportunity to connect with Greg Cook. His daughters both went to UNF, son-in-law, so he has that Osprey blood. But we have the opportunity to bring our students out to the Ritz-Carlton, and something truly special happened with those 6 or 7 students that were able to get out there. And it was a tough day for me. I did, make the sacrifice and head out to the Ritz, anything for my students. And Isaiah, Olivia, and Mindy were a few of the students that had the opportunity to go out there. Greg took us on a tour of about 800 plus students, staff members in that hotel. And it was absolutely amazing, and what a powerful example to our students as they're going through the hotel. Greg knew the name of every person. Not only knew their name, knew their story. Asking about the child of one of the staff members at the gift shop. Housekeeping went by, Greg's asking about their recent vacation. And what a powerful example it set for our students to say how the CEO is treating everyone like they were the CEO. And it was so powerful for our students to see that. So as we're meeting at the very end of the tour, the session, and learning about how they use leadership in their daily operations, all 7 of our students looked at Greg and said, I will work here tomorrow. Even people who work for me said that. And I think I'm pretty good. And it was such a powerful testament to our students. I've worked with a lot of organizations, Olympic athletes, Fortune 500 CEOs, you name it. And I was absolutely blown away by the presence that Greg had in the way that he made his people, his family, his work family, feel significant. So it prompted me on the ride home. I made a few phone calls to a few people, and I'm pleased to announce, thrilled to announce that we are now starting a brand new partnership with Franklin Covey, Ritz-Carlton, and the TLI Leadership Institute to create a pipeline program for our students to get trained in leadership and learn from great organizations like the Ritz-Carlton on how to lead in the real world. Something goes beyond a textbook, beyond any class. So our Business Leadership Award, and more great things to come, Greg. You're going to be stuck with us for years to come. We have a lot of partnerships ahead. So our Business Leadership Award, Greg Cook from the Ritz-Carlton.
It's really special to be here. Coming from Nice High School, I've been here since 1982. Can't believe it. But I first want to say, every time I walk on this campus, I get a great feeling. I think University of North Florida is the best school in Florida, so congratulations to everybody here. It's pretty hard to follow Dr. Challey's, but we'll do our best here. Really proud to have the partnership with the Taylor Institute, the Leadership Institute. Miss Taylor was an English teacher of mine at Nice High School, and I learned some really good lessons from Miss Taylor. So I want to thank June and Bruce for having this great Leadership Institute, and as well Matt. Matt, every time you say it's a pleasure to meet people, it's a pleasure for all of us to meet you. So thank you very much for what you do. 3 students today we're recognizing because it's 11th grade. And in my opinion, when Matt and I talked, I think 11th grade is where it's at in high school. It's so competitive. They have all the pressure on them. 12th grade, you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you're really building up that 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. And 11th grade was a pivotal year for me at Nice. I won 2 national amateur golf tournaments in my 11th grade that put me right up on the map to be the top 10 amateur golfers in the country, as well as winning the state high school championship. So that really put me on a map to be able to play college golf at Wake Forest. But a funny thing happened along the way. So in the high school matches, I remember back at the district, if you win district, you go to state. And with our team, we didn't have that good a team. We were probably ranked 3rd, 4th, 5th, and it was only the winning team that goes to district from this area. And I didn't win the individual. So I was kind of hanging out there like, okay, how's our team doing? And actually our team won the district tournament for me to go to state, for me to win state high school championship, to put me on the map. So I always remember it takes a team, it takes a village, and if it wasn't for my team playing exceptionally well that day, there were kids on our team that beat their average by 10 shots that day, that played incredible. I shot about a 73, that was good, but it wasn't good enough to make it on my own. And thank God our team made it. And then we went to state, and I ended up winning the state championship. So funny how things work out, but I'm just so thankful that those things kind of turned out the way they did. So today, we went through a process at Nice High School, really just appreciative of the Golden Panther Booster Club with Matt to recognize that we feel the top 3 students at Nice High School that show the best leadership and character, and really proud to acknowledge, if I could just say one more minute.
Sure. We'll shut your mic off at 2.
Okay, so, you know, they all came about winning in a different way. And, you see the names up there, Victoria playing lacrosse, outstanding leader, showing that initiative, showing the inspiration, and hard work. So congratulations, Victoria. And Brody, playing baseball. Brody was hurt in 9th grade. You had to kind of start over. I mean, you got a hurt shoulder, and you have to start from scratch, and he built his way up to be a leader now in his 11th grade in baseball, as well as a 4.6 IB program. So Brody's an all-star. And DeMarco really said something in his video that captured, I think, the essence. And DeMarco said, I'm not even sure if you know this, DeMarco, but you said in your video, do your job. And a couple years ago, I actually sat in with a Hall of Fame golfer by the name of Jackie Burke. And Jackie Burke won 2 majors, 15 tour events, and he's one of the golf legends in the world. And he sat in the office, and I sat right across from him, and he said, do your job. And it was incredible that what you said in that video really struck me. And that was a big thing for my success on the PGA Tour, is having the responsibility, the hard work of doing your job. So, and that goes back to Miss Taylor in English class, hard work and preparation lead the way. And I never forgot that, so thank you, Miss Taylor, for that. those lessons in high school. So if we can bring the 3 juniors up.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to the Big Time, Todd. So, since this is big time, I thought it'd be kind of cool that you get the first word. Your first keynote, you can take the first word. How's that sound?
Sounds great. You know, and having to get a lot off my chest. You know, Jonathan and I, we've had our mentorship for a very, very long time, probably like 4 years, 2019. So just have to say and just put it out for everybody. Jonathan didn't really teach me how to become a leader. I have to put that out there. And I say that just because to some people, leadership or being a leader is a little more than a role, right? Instead, what Jonathan did was he mentored me in the responsibilities of leadership, right? I remember when we first started our mentorship, 2019, you know, I'm 19 years old, and I'm calling him, we're on the, you know, because we didn't meet each other first yet, but I'm on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I want to be a speaker, and a poet, and best-selling author, so many things that I want to do. And I'm like, that is all under the umbrella of the future. That's my name, the future. And it's like,
He branded himself.
yes.
The future.
I used to draw on my wrist and everything in high school, like the future was it. And he's like, okay, well, what does that really mean? I'm like, what do you mean? Like the future. You know, I'm the future, you know, we're gonna help people in the future, you know, in the future, you know, people are gonna help others. Like, it just made sense. And it's like, it was lacking specificity, right? And it didn't really tell you what I represented. So it was my responsibility to figure out who I be. And I know English major, bad English, but who I be, yeah, bad English. But who I be basically just represented my character, my characteristics, who I represented, my capabilities, like what am I actually able to do, right? And it also represented my contributions. How will I be able to add value to people around me, right? So, start off with 3 things. He helped me hammer this down a lot. Excuse me. But he helped me hammer this down a lot. The 3 things that I needed, one was vision. Vision is your where, right? A vision is a clear and mental picture of a desired future, of your desired future. So, a lot of mistakes that people make with the vision is that they don't dream big enough, right? They just kind of dream within their square. But me, being 19, I wanted to like conquer the world. I wanted to do everything. So I had to kind of, what is specifically, what do I want to do? Where's my where? Where am I going? The next thing I wanted to figure out was my mission, right? Your mission is your why, the heart behind things. Why do you want the things that you want? Why do you want to do the things that you say you want to do, right? The conviction behind it. So I had to figure that out. And the last thing I had to figure out was my goals. The goals were like your what? What to do to get to where you want to go. What can I do to make my vision and my mission reality, right? And it wasn't until I got Goal Speed where I was able to transition it from the future into Taj and Pope. You know, a little simpler. Taj writes poetry, cool, like real simple. But it was through that where I was able to truly embody and walk into the type of man that I wanted to be and the type of leader that I wanted to be. And that's kind of just on one side of the coin, right? I had to also recognize if I was ready or not to take on the challenges that I wanted, right? I wanted to be, you know, big speaker, you know, have this vision. I mean, a part of the vision is what I'm doing here today. I have the honor of being able to speak to you guys, right? That was a part of the vision. I saw this. But the other way, I had to be ready. I had to prepare. And Jonathan actually has something called the readiness assessment. It's in Raising Them Ready, in one of his books. But it's kind of broken down into 2 things, right? You have your mindset, which is your willingness, and then you have your ability, your ableness, right? You have to be both willing and able to be ready to meet a demand or to be ready to meet a goal. So, me as a mentor in Dallas, I like to, you know, the kids are safe with me, of course, but when we're playing games, whether it's basketball, Connect Four, I'm trying to destroy them. Like, I'm trying to dunk on every single child, I'm trying to beat every single child, and like, we'll play Connect Four, right? And I'm like undefeated, you know, 300-0, you know, against the kids. And I go in front of them, and I'm talking, I'm like, yeah, I'm a dog. Like, Coach Todd's the dog. I'm like barking, just being obnoxious, you know, having fun. And they'll sit down, and sometimes some kids will sit, and they'll be like, I'm playing Coach Todd, so I'm gonna lose, right? And I'd stop them, and I'd be like, hey, well, why even play? In your mind, you've already predetermined that you weren't ready. You already predetermined that you weren't gonna win. So why start something if you told yourself that you weren't going to do it in the first place? And that is why your mentality is so important. That's why it's a huge key of being ready. So I always tell them, like, I don't know who says the quote. Maybe someone can tell me, help me out. But those who say they can and those who say they can't are both usually right. That's usually what I tell them. So if you're telling me, or you're telling yourself that you're about to lose before you even play, what's the point of even starting, right? And the other thing, being able, right? Your ableness goes into two categories: your skill set and tool set, right? Your skill set are the things that you can probably do in your sleep, right? There's a lot of things that I can do. You know, I love sports. I can write. I can, you know, dribble basketball, all that stuff. I can do that without thinking about it. Those are things that I'm gifted in. Your skill set are the things that you have natural talents and abilities in, right? And then your tool set are the resources. These are the things that are outside of yourself. So for me, Jonathan played a huge role as my mentor in helping and being my tool set so that I can further my skills, right? And you have to have both. So like the challenge is to build a house. You're a master carpenter and you got all the skills, but you have no like plan on what to build. Well then there's not really gonna be a house that's being built. There's no parameters, there's no guidelines, there's no resources, right? Or you have all the resources, but you ain't got no skills. It's not really a house that you want to be in, right? It's not going to be built properly. So for us to truly be ready to take on the demands, to take on these goals, you have to be both willing and able, have the proper mindset, have the skill set, have the tool set, right? And that's my question to you guys. What are you trying to do? What are you ready in? What are you ready for? And also, what is your vision? Like, what do you want to do? Like, if you had no parameters, no restrictions, what is something that you want to do right now, all right? What's your mission? What's your why? Why is it so important to you? Like, why do you want to do these things? And the third thing would be, what are some goals for you to get there? Like, I always ask people when I have conversations like, man, like, tell me the next goal. What's the next big thing that you're doing? Some people will tell me a whole, like, life plan, and then some people are like, I don't know, I'm just taking it day by day, all right? But in order for us to truly walk and grow in our leadership, we have to have those three things, right? And then truly recognize that we're ready to be able to do that. This reminds me actually of the first lesson, because once I had that, I was able to kind of have a plan of who I wanted to be every single day and follow every single day, right? Which kind of reminds me of the first lesson that we learned, Jonathan. I think maybe you should probably teach him this time.
Willingness lesson?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lesson about willingness that we probably all know, and so I'll start the sentence and you finish it, and we'll see how we do. Okay. So this is a willingness of practice. We all know that practice makes
Perfect.
I'm sorry. Did they say perfect?
They said perfect.
They said perfect.
Yeah, they said perfect.
There's a problem with that reply. Is there any such a thing as perfect?
No.
Okay, so then why do we say practice makes perfect? It's kind of been ingrained into us over the years, hasn't it? If practice made perfect, then we would see a performance that couldn't be bettered after that performance. Yet with practice, the next two in line at the Olympics, or the next in line in industry, the next in line in medicine, has practiced to a point where they have exceeded the previous quote-unquote perfect performance. So if practice doesn't make perfect, which we know it doesn't, and parents, please, and educators, please, stop telling our kids that practice makes perfect, because then they get this perfection complex. Instead, in the willingness factor, if you practice, are you willing to get better? Practice simply makes better. And if we're going to practice something to get better at it, and we're talking about leadership, how do we practice to get better in leadership? There's a lot of conversation about leadership, and yet we'll come back, and Taj and I have talked about this for years now, that if you're going to practice to be a better leader, you actually have to practice stewardship before leadership.
Right.
If you can practice good stewardship, then you can eventually rise to the level of leadership, but it begins with stewardship. By definition, stewardship is responsible management, supervision, and protection of what's been entrusted to your care. I'll say that one more time. Stewardship is responsible management, supervision, and protection of what's been entrusted to your care. And this practice of stewardship is not new to anybody in the room, but how we define it and how we place it into the rise towards leadership has changed in a generation, in just one single generation. This is the old model of leadership development. We had leaders over followers. And I get to be interviewed quite often, whether it's a podcast or in public, whether it's for an article or a show. And I got a request for an interview from an elementary school student, which doesn't happen very often, but I thought, how kind of fun is this? And I accepted the invitation, and they made an appointment at my office. The showman showed up, dressed up. He had his notebook and a series of questions, sat down across from me at my desk and had a little bit of small talk, much like many interviews go that I have about leadership. And after just a little bit of settling in and make sure everybody do need anything to drink, you get settled and you feel comfortable, the young man looks at me and says, "Can we begin our interview?" And I said, "Sure, son." My son, his school had assigned him to go interview someone from an older generation. And he picked his father. And so now my son is sitting there, and we've gone through all this formality, of which I was very pleased and proud of as a father. I thought, wow, he can go out in the world and conduct an interview. This is impressive. He said, "My first question for you, Mr. Catherine, what was it like growing up in the 1900s?" And I looked at my own son, and I'm like, who coached you on that question? Look at my media. Who told me to ask that question? That's like the best question I've ever been asked when it comes to how do we define the pursuit of leadership. Because this old model of leadership pursuit, where we had leaders over followers, is very different in the 1900s than it is today. The emerging generation of young leaders today expect something different from us, and it includes stewardship. We need to expect the same from them. This is a new leadership pursuit model. Membership, then stewardship, and then leadership. Membership is just belonging to an organization. Welcome to being a student at UNF. Congratulations. Welcome to the team. You've made the team. Welcome to the company. Welcome to the Ritz. Welcome to the office. Welcome to wherever you work. You're now a member of this organization, and our bare minimum requirements are clearly defined in this document. If you abide by these requirements, if you pay your dues at the gym, you can stay. And most people, unfortunately, that is their first measure, and they are not called to a higher pursuit. Some, and some are in this room, see more than membership as their minimum requirement. They believe they need to make an investment in responsible management, supervision, and protection of what's been entrusted to their care, hence stewardship. And then at some point, as you perform excellent stewardship, you're doing what is not just required, but also what you're passionate about and you're committed to it. Someone will come along, we'll talk about this in a minute, and ask, how do you become a leader? So when we take a look at this pursuit of leadership, we must first take a look at the pursuit of stewardship, responsible management, supervision, protection of what's been entrusted to your care.
That's good. And again, from membership, we have to travel through to stewardship, right? And there's a lot of different membership roles that we have here, students, business people, educators. And for the students, since having just been one, and I'm still a student, you should never want to stop being a student. To the students, what's been entrusted into your care is to be a learner who asks great questions, right? When you ask great questions, you should expect great answers. And when you ask shallow questions, you should expect shallow answers. And when you ask no questions, you're not going to get anything back. No answer, right? So, and it's really good for us to be able to do that, because this is how we continue to keep the ball rolling. This is how we continue to grow. This is how we continue to practice being better. If we're not asking great questions, then we will not really know how to be the innovator, how to think differently, how to change, how we know we're doing what we're supposed to do, and if it can be done in a different way to make it better. So as a student, make sure that we are finding people to ask great questions to.
And as educators, which I believe everybody in this room is an educator, whether you are currently enrolled here as a student, which makes you a learner, there's someone who will learn from you, which makes you an educator, as well as everybody in this room is also a learner, so we're all students. But to the educators in this room, when the learners ask us great questions, please provide them with great answers. That is the expectation. And when you don't know the answer, sometimes the very greatest response you can give them is to say, I don't know yet. But I'm going to pursue learning more, and when I find out, I'll share it with you. Or even better yet, why don't we look for the answer together? Because that's what leaders do, is they pass on to others what they have learned. And maybe I don't know it yet, but we're going to pursue it and find it together.
That's good. And to the business people in the room, what's been entrusted into your care is to help and welcome the community. When I think of community, I think of me, because I'm a part of the community, but I also think of a bunch of me's. Community is built up of a bunch of individuals. And the biggest way that we can truly care for the health and wealth of our community is if we shift our perspective. It's like a 180-degree shift, right? I like to think of the M in me. Do an M like this. Right? This is an M, right? And we shifted 180 degrees to make a W for we, right? So how can we find ways to truly stop thinking about me and start thinking about we? That would be the best way that we can be stewards in our community.
And then to all of us in the room, entrusted to our care is to love one another. And I truly believe this because I do not believe you can be a leader without love. So what we know about love is that love is patient and love is kind. If you think about the very best leaders you know, are they not patient and kind leaders? I also know about love is that it is not selfish, arrogant, or rude. And the very best leaders I know are not selfish, arrogant, or rude. And the last thing about love is it rejoices in what is good and is right, and the very best leaders rejoice in what good and what is right. And that's why I rejoice in this young man. As his mentor, teaching him the pursuit of leadership through stewardship, I see a young man here, and if you look at the others who are involved in the mentorship relationship in this room, I see a young man here, I say he is in the pursuit of love, because that's the only way that he will truly lead and practice those responsibilities of leadership. Because as a great steward, and his now young mentees in his program, when they come to him and say, Coach Taj, how do I do what you do? Without love, Coach Taj would say, I worked really hard at this. And you're going to have to work really hard at it too. Took me a while to figure it out, and you're going to have to figure it out too. That's the whole idea of, sure, you can one day be great, but maybe not as great as me. As a parent, I want to see my children have a better life than mine. As a mentor, I want to see the next generation do greater than we have done. And then when a mentee comes to a mentor, someone who's stewarding looks to a leader and says, how did you do that? And the leader says, I'd be happy to share. That is the invitation into leadership. I'd be happy to share with you everything I have. Because when you are loved, then you love others as you love yourself. And if you're not loving others, I'm going to argue you might have a hard time loving yourself. So if you love yourself, love others, because that's what leadership is all about. And I know this man loves himself. And I don't mean like that self-esteem kind of love that we've been teaching generations. I think I love yourself. And then the pandemic comes and they're like, I don't know what to do with myself. I mean the self-efficacy kind of love yourself. Self-efficacy is self-esteem with proof. I know I love myself because, and I can put my finger on this skill, that trait, this quality. And I think that Taj has done an exceptional job of that in showing that he loves himself because he can demonstrate to himself the mindset, skill set, tool set, the willingness and ability. He is ready to lead. When we first met in person, that same picture we took the selfie of, we went out to dinner. And I told him, hey, we're going to go someplace nice. I said, where do you normally eat? He goes, I don't know, Taco Bell and the Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, all right, well, we're going to go someplace, we're going to upscale a little bit here. So dressed up a little bit. I don't know what I was expecting. I was not expecting a man showing up looking like he was going to a Miami wedding. That's all I was saying. He was dressed nice, and he's got on a suit jacket and tie, and he's just, I'm like, wow, now I feel underdressed where we're going. But he just showed up, he was confident, he was capable, he was kind, he was dressed the part. The man knew how to present himself in a way that you looked at him and said, He doesn't just like himself, he loves himself, and he respects the position that we're in because he's showing up appropriately. As a mentor, one of the things that I know that we do when we mentor young people is to help them be confident, capable, and kind, so when they arrive in a position, a place, that they don't feel like they're less than. Part of that takes practice. And I think you got a picture here, a video of how you help some boys practice to have that level of confidence, capable, and kindness you had, that love of self.
First off, thank you so much, you know what I'm saying? I love to dress, like it's awesome. And the only reason I'm able to do that is because I grew confident and capable in the ability to be able to do so. But I also thought to myself, you know, one day the kids that I mentor, they're gonna have a mentor, it could be me or somebody else, take them out to a nice fancy restaurant that they've never been before, you know, have just meat on the plate and you don't even have to go touch it, like beautiful, right? They might be in a situation like that. They might have a dance that they might go to, or a wedding that they might go to. They need to dress up as well. They need to be able to be confident and capable and present themselves in the best way possible. So I decided to, one day, I just went into my closet, I grabbed every single tie that I owned, about 5 of them, and took them to the program. And I have about maybe 10 to 12 kids, like 5th and 6th grade right now. And I was like, all right, guys, we're going to learn how to tie a tie. And I got 2 reactions. One was, bro, are you my dad? Like, no. And then the other one was like, awesome, like, let's do it. I want to learn. So I gave the first 5, the only 5, to the kids who wanted to learn first. And we're like going, we're struggling with it. I'm like, all right, guys, over here, you know, put it. Actually, I think, it's one of those things you have to be there. So I do have a video. It's a quick video, you know, shot by my iPhone, professional footage. But if you want to watch it real quick, yeah, you can click the next one, yeah. It's awesome. And I think what I love about that video is 2 things that I love. One was in the beginning, like towards the middle, I don't know if y'all saw, but there's like a kid with 4 applesauces in his hand, like trying to scarf him down. And then this kid right here, his name is King. When I told him about tying the tie, he was like, oh, my granddad taught me how to tie. I already know how to do it, right? And then he sees everybody kind of like going, they're struggling, they finally got it. You can see the joy like on their faces, like, oh my goodness, I did it, like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you know, Coach Styles, like, can you show me? You know, he kind of pulled me to the side, can you show me how to do it? It's like that. So we're going, we're struggling too. Once he finally got that tie, not only did he want a personal cameo for himself, he wore that tie the whole program. Talking about playing basketball, snack time, everything that we did, he wore the tie. Like, I had to take it off of him before he went to the car, because I only got 5. So I needed it back. But the only thing left for him to do, I showed him how to tie the tie, right? But the only thing left for him to do is to practice. And we learned again that practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes better. And in order for them to get better in tying ties, they need to continue to practice. Which, again, because we know that practice makes perfect, if you want to be a better leader, or in your campus, or throughout your career, or within the community, or even in your family, you have to first practice stewardship before leadership. Because that would be what will take you higher and higher and higher in your leadership, and also raise others. So when you are, like Jonathan, showing like, okay, this is how I became who I am, and it was through stewardship, now I can show you and guide you, and you can be a great steward as well, so that we can continue to grow. So, and that's also because we truly believe that
we have a shared belief about practice.
Yeah.
That their greatness tomorrow, this guy right here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, their greatness
Their greatness
tomorrow. It begins with your guidance today, from all of you guys. And those are like, maybe like half of the kids that I have. But, yeah, it's awesome.
So go practice stewardship before leadership, because those whom you steward in mentorship, leadership, their greatness tomorrow begins with your guidance today.
What leadership advice would you give to your younger self? Travel back in time.
Thank you for having me, guys. For myself, I would say that making mistakes is okay. It's okay to mess up. I think it's Denzel Washington that says you can fall down 7 times, but as long as you get back up 8 times, it's okay. I personally work in healthcare, and I'm with a team of almost 50 individuals, and I wouldn't ask them to do things that I wouldn't do myself. And I just want them to know that making direction of leadership.
Excellent. Well, Hannah, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've noticed since taking part in the leadership minor? What are one of the biggest changes that you've noticed since you've been taking part in the leadership minor?
Okay, so I started leadership minor just as another way to stay in school a little bit longer. I do athletics here at UNF, and it's highly encouraged to talk about through athletics, the program here. And for me, it was, well, I just want to start something else. I don't want to leave yet. I don't want to graduate. What can I add to it? And for me, I think the biggest change was just seeing like the good in myself. And so I go to class every other Tuesday right now, and I'm in the practicum with Dr. Olson, and I notice, I leave class and I think to myself, wow, I feel good right now. Like I just have that great feeling just about myself in general, and then knowing the impact that I have around everyone else. And so for me, I think the biggest change has just been looking deeper in myself and knowing like I have the opportunity and I have tools to be a leader that I never really knew I had.
That's good. Olivia, also don't be afraid to hold the mic up a little bit, so we can all hear you. Olivia, this is your question. How has your definition and or perspective of leadership changed or evolved since your time here at UNF?
Thank you for having me as well, Ms. Mitchell. When I came in, I thought leadership was just a leadership title that you have, like, oh, you're a CEO, that means you're a leader, and so I never saw myself as a leader until I injured myself my junior year of high school, and I got to take on a different perspective from being a cheerleader to being an assistant coach, helping the cheer coach with that, with coaching and giving pointers to the cheerleaders since I couldn't do it. And I was like, oh, that's cool and everything, but I still didn't think that it was something that I was making an impact on until I was able to come here, and I did my minor as well. And I guess I made a really big impact. They asked me to be a College of Education and Human Services ambassador, and now I can see that even as a student still, I make an impact every single day on students that are coming into the university wanting to think about coming here, and I've had them email me and tell me that they're choosing this because of what I've told them. So I think being a leader kind of has changed from just being a leadership role to having that positive impact on someone every single day.
Leadership, that power of influence used for good.
So, Hannah, how do you believe engaging in leadership development will set you apart as you move through college and beyond into the professional world?
So I think being a part of the leadership program, it sets me apart as knowing like, yeah, I have those basic tools of the 7 habits and some of the different lectures and opportunities I've been to. But I think in general, it just brings that awareness to yourself of, like I said earlier, like you are a leader. And I think just having that confidence going into different situations is something that everyone has, and not everyone understands that like they are a leader, and everyone doesn't understand that a leader is not a CEO or the main big boss. Like you are a leader in your everyday life, and you know that going into different situations, so you're better prepared to influence and help out others around you. And so I think just knowing that knowledge and just having that confidence in myself, like, allows me to stand apart from maybe some of the other people around me.
Yeah. Excellent. Dylan, I want to call back to a statement you had, your first question about mentorship. You mentioned how important that was. So can you expand on the impact mentorship has had on the development of your leadership? Because it's obvious it's important to you, so expand why just getting a mentor is not just having someone show you what to do, but how it's turned you into a better leader.
Right, so kind of like the example that was given earlier about the CEO that knew every single person's family and their story, and they treated everyone at an individual level. Having the mentorship allows you to have someone to show you the way, so they can learn from their experiences. You can ask questions about things you might be thinking on, or problems you faced, and things that now, as a result of the mentorship, I can see how he would have approached the problem, and ultimately get to a better solution. So having mentorship just is such a benefit to learn from others' experiences and then apply it in real world settings.
Good. Now, Olivia, we've been talking about, applying things and practicing leadership. So what are some things that you are going to do to ensure that you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
So actually, one thing that we did learn in our leadership practicum, an activity that we had to do was we used these little sticks, like colorful different sticks, and they could stick together and make something. And one of the words that I came up with those sticks as well is positivity, and I used a little happy face, and so I actually have that happy face with me in my journal that I use every single day. I actually made another one and I put it up on my picture frame that I see every day. So one thing I would say to practice all the time is positivity, and that's something I continue to do. Even if I come in and I just didn't sleep very well or I didn't have a good day, I come in and I'm always trying to show positivity and bring a little positive light into everyone's day, even if they had a bad day.
So Olivia, I think I know your answer already for this next question, which is for the whole panel. You just said positivity is an important character trait. I mentioned, and Taj and I believe, that in order to be a great leader, you need to show people love. So for the whole panel, what is a character trait that you believe every leader should possess?
Well, I mean, we all know positivity, but something that was also in our very first class that we talked about is to be proactive, not reactive, and that's something I try and bring every single day, so proactive as well.
I think every leader should practice stewardship. If you're gonna say that your team, your organization believes in certain values, how are you actually going out and implementing it and practicing it in the real world setting? So when you set expectations for your team, how do you go out and actually implement those things by taking real world steps and going out and helping other people?
I would say one big thing to me is being uncomfortable. If you're always just kind of following what everyone else is doing or what you think is right, like, you're never gonna branch out a little bit more. And one of the big things I said with me was the lollipop moment. It is something we talk about in class, and just saying hi to someone, like, if you feel uncomfortable, like, saying hi to someone, like, you're not gonna have that moment with them. Or if you don't know if you should speak to the cashier who's checking you out, like, you're never gonna have, like, a big impact on someone if you don't have the courage to go out there and be uncomfortable a little bit.
And then I would add, I think that the strongest characteristic is being able to adapt. Again, I work in healthcare, and healthcare is ever changing, as everyone knows, but I think the ability to adapt in any industry is a universal thing. And then I'd also say that you want your teams to feel, again, to Olivia's point, positive about change, and of course that's not going to be easy at all times, but if they're seeing their leader, the steward, making that first step, then I think it's always going to affect the rest of the team.
Well, I think that you embody the belief that everyone is capable of greatness and the world needs yours. Thank you for being the next great generation that we can believe in and come alongside and follow. I think they deserve a round of applause. Thank you very much.